Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are here with our organizer extraordinaire, Ann Sharp, joining us today. Excited to have her talking more about the work that she does as an organizer. And first and foremost, I know we're going to talk about closets today. And also, you mentioned last week's Kid Spaces and memorabilia. Okay, perfect. Let me ask you in particular, first and foremost, tell us about yourself and your company.
So my business is called A Sharp Space. I'm a certified professional organizer and I work in the residential organizing field. So I basically try to help people make the most of the space they have. And often they call me when they're on, going through a life transition. That's a typical time when people need a little extra help and direction.
Perfect. And what's the website? How can we find you and where are you based out of specifically?
I'm based out of Winchester, which is just north of Boston. So I service the greater Boston area. My website is asharpspace.com and my phone number is 617-939-4641.
Perfect. So you also work now, by the way, with clients virtually too, correct?
I do, yes. Yeah, depending what platform they like, yes.
Okay, for today's show, I do have just an email sharing that you want to cover closets, right?
Right.
So I don't have any specific bullet points. So in that email, you mentioned you sent something else as well.
Yes, an attachment, a one-page attachment.
So sorry, I don't have it yet. So I'm going to have you start to speak about the closets and organization,
Okay,
please.
that's fine. Typically when a client would contact me saying they want to, work in their closet, their closet's just a mess, it's important for me to try to get to the bottom of, well, what exactly is going on? Is it that you can't find the clothes that you want when you want them? Or, maybe you've changed size and things just don't work anymore and you need to revisit what you have in your closet. Or maybe you honestly believe you're completely at capacity and, you need a new closet. You need to address the fixtures more than the contents. So I try initially to figure out, is it that you've got too much stuff or have you already maybe, purged everything and it's literally that you just don't have enough space. You don't have the fixtures to support what you want to keep. So that's where I would always start and really ask them to try to envisage and describe what their dream closet looks like. It can be very different depending whether if they're working in a professional field where they have to be smartly dressed every day, they may want to separate their professional wardrobe from their casual wardrobe. Maybe they're an outdoors enthusiast and want to keep all their hiking gear or their ski gear or scuba diving gear, whatever it is, in one particular area. So it's, grab and go. So, I try to get from them a little bit of information about what they're trying to achieve before we dive in with reorganizing.
Perfect. And by the way,
Yeah.
just for, this is your first Zoom show with us. Tell us where you got the passion from and started this business with organization. Where did it all come from and stem from, Anne?
Well, I think I've always been naturally organized as one of these people who was that way. I've always loved it. And it wasn't really until I discovered NAPO, which is the professional body to which I belong. It stands for the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, that I realized, wow, I found my peeps and there's 3,000 other people out there nationally who are doing this for a living. And it made me realize that I could pivot career-wise into doing something that I'm naturally good at and I love helping people. So I decided to start a business. And that was 8 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on this
Well,
and the
thank you.
success of that. And back to the closet. What else is next for us? Because this is important. Got to ask. I have
Yeah.
stuff in my closet that's probably like 20 years old, and I hold
Uh-huh.
on to it for that attachment purpose of I wore that when, oh, I'll wear it again. Never do. Do you have a rule of thumb with how long something should be in the closet before you got to get rid of it?
I wouldn't say I have a hard rule of thumb, but I do know exactly what you mean because I do believe I have one silk two-piece outfit in my closet that I wore to a number of special occasions, and it just brings back the happy memories, when and if I see it. But no, I think it's more about does it have that very special attachment, and I mean more than random, but also how does it make you feel if you were to wear it again? I mean, does it make you feel good? Does it fit you? Does it complement? Maybe you've changed your hair coloring, maybe you're a different size, maybe your style has just changed, so I would try to make sure that it fits the life that you're currently leading, not necessarily the one you were leading when you purchased the item. And I think a lot of people, when they look hard and fast at the items in their closet, they realize that some items they just don't gravitate towards because, they're itchy when they wear them. Or there's that annoying little stain that you tried once to get out and it didn't come out, so you just stuck it back in the closet. But are you realistically going to take the time to do more than a cursory, spot cleaner? Or there's items that just need tailored. Something looks really well if it's properly fitted. And if you haven't in the last 6 months found your way to the tailors, maybe you're never going to. So, I do think there's a lot of questions you can ask yourself about the items you keep. But yeah, there's definitely a place, I think, for certain sentimental items that bring back, the concert you went to, or the first marathon you ran, or whatever it happens to be. That's okay.
Yeah. All right. And just to let you know, I do have your notes now. So yes, before reorganizing, sort by category, let's go down the list and get to that capsule wardrobe.
Yeah.
People might say, what is she talking about? What's a capsule wardrobe? But Anne will elaborate.
Yeah. Well, I tend to go through a closet very systematically. Obviously, if there's a pile of clothes on the floor, then we have to deal with that. But I would typically sort everything by, put all the shirts together, all the pants together, the dresses, skirts, jackets together, because sometimes you don't even realize, how many you have of a particular item until you put them together. I remember working with a realtor once, and I think we got to like the 13th pair of black pants, and she thought, oh, wow, I just never even knew I had that many. And the reality is that you're always going to wear what fits you best, what flatters you, what's comfortable. There may be some different lengths or styles within that, but by putting them together, it makes it easier for you to make decisions about, what are the absolute no's. There's definitely going to be things you look at, and if your face falls, you think, oh, that's a no. It's an easy one. And so I would, if you like, pick the low hanging fruit first, do the easy no's. And then when it gets to the maybe piles, that's when you ask the hard questions. I'm not necessarily an advocate. I know Marie Kondo, she's brought a lot of, attention to the professional organized industry for sure. But my approach would not be to necessarily empty the closet of everything and dump it on the bed, especially if you're the sort of person who's had your clothes dry cleaned. I don't want them to all get creased in a heap, so I would go category by category and pick out the no's, and then, ask about the others. There's one particular question I just loved. I went to the book tour that Gretchen Rubin had when she released her book, Outer Order, Inner Calm. And this brought down the house when she said this. It was, would I be happy to meet my ex wearing this? You hold up something and think, oh God, no, I'd die if I bumped into so-and-so in the supermarket wearing that.
I think about it all the time when I go to Costco, because I'm like, my ex might be here. I can't go out of the house like this, even though I'm comfortable at my home, but I'm like, I gotta feel a little good. I gotta, just in case.
Yeah. It's kind of just a good tester almost,
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. So I think that the ideal, if you really are trying to come up with like a smaller wardrobe that works for you, is, well, if you've got the money and the funds, work with a stylist, because a stylist will, tell you what the right fit for you is, what styles complement you. And we all know that can vary based on the brand you're buying. You might be a size 8 in one brand, a size 4 in another. I've even found annoyingly sometimes with the same brand from season to season, the size can shift. So I think working with a stylist is great, but if you do have a goal of a capsule wardrobe, and what that is a smaller wardrobe that works well, think about creating like a series of base layers that you can wear, that you can mix and match. So, more neutral colors, olives, beiges, black in particular, and then complement them with maybe your more statement pieces, your signature color. I mean, I like blue, for example, or particular prints. Maybe you like tartans or stripes or whatever, but, have the staples, have a number of items that work well in different mix and match combos, and then just have the outlier if you like to freshen it up, make it feel different, and accessorize accordingly. I mean, don't wear a really expensive outfit with a tacky belt or something. You're going to bring down the whole outfit. So and I think you need to know yourself when you're choosing clothes and what you choose to keep. I mean, maybe there's things in your wardrobe that you don't wear because that linen skirt creases when you sit and you're not going to be ironing it every time you wear it. So learn your lesson. Don't buy linen. Yes, it's a lovely fabric and, it has its place. But if you're an easy care person that wants to pull things out of the dryer and hang them up and be done with it, just know that, so know your limitations and build layers that work, for the weather, so.
Oh, all right. Good to know. Now, also, just want to remind everyone how we could reach out to you, Anne, because we're about halfway through. It's always good to do so.
My website is asharpspace.com. You can book a discovery call there, complimentary discovery call if you want, or you can call me at 617-939-4641.
Perfect. All right. Good to know, Anne. And we're talking today, first and foremost, about this closet organization, the capsule wardrobe. My question is, my mom's unfortunately passed, but before she died, one of the things she told me, you need to get rid of those wire hangers in your closet. I said, but they're so thin from like the cleaners. I'm like, I years ago, 10, probably 15 years, I bought all those big, bulky plastic white and black hangers. And now, oh my gosh, my mom's like, no, you got to get the huggy ones. They're like velvet. Never did. What are your preference with hangers?
Well, I did attend, I remember, a presentation once by Garderobe, who are, they look after a lot of very wealthy people's couture clothing and so on. And they gave a presentation on how to look after your clothing. And wire hangers were not part of the conversation in that they're just not good for your clothes. They're almost like too thin that they don't, you end up with like a firm line along the shoulders. So the type of hangers you were talking about, the velvet ones, Joy Mangano was one of the original makers of those, and they do vary a lot in quality, just so you know. I mean, you'll see different deals online, but they're not always the same quality. You want to make sure they're strong, that they're not going to break, and that the neck hook will twist, because it's just really annoying if it doesn't. You'll find in practice. Those are very good. The clinginess of them work well with slippery fabrics, like blouses and silks and things, because they will stay on the hanger. So that is good. And yes, you're correct. You will definitely get a lot more on the same rod space. But Garderobe gave a recommendation that your things should be about an inch apart. I mean, I've definitely seen things a lot closer than that. I think in the ideal closet,
Yes.
yes,
It's
you would
horrible.
have about an inch apart
Excuse
of your
me.
clothing. But I mean, it is all about buying the right hanger,
Mm-hmm. Ah,
I think the wooden hangers, which are curved a bit, are really great for like your cloakroom closet, maybe an entry closet where you're hanging heavy coats. But basically having uniform hangers mean you'll get more in the space, because if some are curved and some aren't, you're going to lose valuable rod space. And I mean, even when you think about pants, for example, I have seen people hang them by the waistband, by, the leg end, folded over a hanger, folded on a shelf. There's so many different ways. So I think it's just good to understand why you're hanging it a certain way. Did you make a conscious decision, or, whatever? If you are hanging them, you want a hanger that has some support, because you don't want to end up with that firm line that a wire hanger would create. So, I think you need to think about it. There are actually some very cool new hangers out there which have a very short neck, the bit with the hook, so that the pants hang very close to the rod, because they don't have the shoulder bit. So, you can maybe go from a 5 to 6 inch drop to where the bar is to 3 inches. And that way save a lot of space, maybe under where your pants are hanging for shoes and things. So I find Wayfair and Amazon both sell a lot of different pant hangers that you might not have thought of. Ones which are open at one end, so you can just pull the pants off without having to remove the hanger.
Oh,
Or
you
even
meant
a
I
gliding pant rack too. So
yeah. Well, what do you like doing? Do you like hanging pants like this way or folding?
yeah, I do hang them folded over. I
Mm-hmm.
actually use the velvet hangers, but I must admit most of mine are on the more casual end. So just because of the nature of the work I do, I don't have too many dress pants, but yeah, I do have them folded.
All right. Well, you mentioned shoes. Tell me how
Yeah.
you do that. Do you throw away the shoe boxes? Do you keep the shoe boxes? What do you do?
Um, I think it depends a lot on the client because I definitely have some clients who are buying very high-end designer shoes. And sometimes their reason for keeping the box is because they think at some point they may resell. And depending how you resell, some consignment shops appreciate having the original box, with the labeling. Others don't want it. So, I mean, if you have a shop that you routinely work with for resale, they will tell you what their guidelines are. But that is one reason why sometimes people keep the box. Generally, I don't like keeping the box, I would say, because they all come in different sizes. If you're stacking them in the box, they're not going
Mm-hmm.
to stack very neatly or look very uniform. I can understand keeping them in the box if they have, like, say, a velvet kind of finish. You're definitely protecting them from dust by keeping them in a box. But what you could do instead is put them in a clear box. And a lot of people use clear boxes. And I mean, you can take a photograph of the shoes and put the photograph on the box. Or if the clear box is see-through enough that you can see exactly what they are, it depends. Some are a bit more opaque than others.
Yeah.
But then at least you could stack the boxes. They will look neat. Your shoes will be protected. And they come in a lot of different sizes. I mean, there's ladies' shoe boxes, there's men's shoe boxes, there's slightly taller ladies' boxes for like ankle boots. And then there's longer, wider boxes for boots. I mean, I definitely have one pair of dress boots, which I keep in a box because, yes, they are suede and they're more special. I'm not pulling them out every other day. Boots I would wear more regularly or just on the shelf. So, but yeah, I think it's a lot about, your personality, what you're going to do with them. I know, for example, I worked with one client who definitely distinguished his casual from his dress shoes. And the dress shoes we put in like little boxes with like a door front.
Mhm.
So you weren't having to like lift a stack of boxes to get to the one you want. You could see them all, lift the door, and these shoe boxes like lock into each other. So it forms a grid. And I'd actually one client who had, oh God, he was a reseller of sneakers. He had an entire wall. I mean, I'm talking 4 foot high in his bedroom of sneakers. And he was a reseller. So each stack of boxes was like by color and make. It was pretty incredible, actually. I think he was in the army, and it was like a little sideline he had selling sneakers. So
Nice.
anyway.
All right. What about pocketbooks?
Oh, well, pocketbooks, I like to separate into size. There's the bigger bags that you might go shopping with a lot of space in them. And then there's the clutch bags, which might be more for evening. And one tip I learned from Marie Kondo, which I really like and utilize myself, is the larger bags, if sometimes they lack structure, they can be a little floppy, and then they kind of lose their shape a bit. So there's two things you can do. You could stuff them with like an acid-free tissue to, give it some body, or keep the original stuffing that the bag came with.
Hmm.
Or you can put like a smaller bag, which has some structure inside the bigger one, but
Okay.
just make sure that if it has a shoulder strap or something, that it comes out the side. So you don't forget you have that bag, right? You don't want to like lose track of things totally, but the smaller bag can give structure to the bigger bag, and you're also saving space. So that's what I would recommend with the bigger ones. But with the smaller ones, I often like to get a clutch organizer. There's some nice ones in acrylic. They sort of, like 1 inch apart segments where you can line them all up. And if it's a very special bag, maybe an evening bag that's velvet or something, you might want to think about keeping it in a dust cover,
All right.
just to keep it protected. So,
And the importance of taking care of your clothes. I know you wanted to discuss that a little too.
well, yeah, I mean, certainly this guardrabe presentation that I attended talked a lot about
Mhm.
making sure before you put things away for the season to, wash them or have them dry cleaned. Because even though they may not appear dirty, there may be body oils or sweat, and you're just sort of putting yourself up for trouble. Other little creatures may decide it's the perfect place to live during the off season when you're not wearing it. So I think it's important to make sure your clothes are clean before you store them. And then think also about the type of clothing and how you store it. Say you had a special sequin dress or something, maybe a knitted dress, even that was sort of heavy. That's not the kind of thing you want to store in a hanger because it will lose its shape and get longer and weigh down. So certain items like that you'll want to fold maybe in an acid-free tissue and put in a box to protect. A bit the way like you would maybe preserve, a christening robe or a wedding dress, you would put it in a seal box folded with special tissue so that the fabric doesn't deteriorate.
Mm, good to know.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
And in regards to maintenance, you mentioned keep a donation bin close by.
Yeah, well, I just think, if you go to grab something and you think, oh, no, last time I wore this, it was awful. And then you put it back in the shelf. I mean, like, don't do that. Just have a bag in your closet at all times where when things stop working for you or don't fit or you stay in them or whatever, just throw it in the bag. And I know quite a few people who do this and they do it in each closet. They'll have one in their kids' closet, one in their own closet. And then when the bag is full, donate it, so just have an ongoing practice of putting things there for donation. And another time I think it's good to have a bag in your closet is I worked with a couple where the husband's shirts were all dry cleaned and she was getting a bit annoyed because she was the one running the dry cleaners, the wife, and she was never quite sure which ones were to go and which weren't. So there was a company, I can't remember the name now, but anyway, they had this lovely tote bag. It was very attractive, worked well with the aesthetics of their closet. And we just set it on the floor in his area. And basically, if he took off a shirt that had to go to the dry cleaners, it went in that bag. So it was very clear that anything in the bags go to the dry cleaners. And it was an easy portable bag to go. I mean, some dry cleaners obviously give you a bag, to use.
Yeah.
You could just leave that there too. And there's certain dry cleaners I've heard will even, if you provide the hangers, put your clothes on your hangers. My local one does not do that, but I have heard there are cleaners will do it. It's worth asking the question because I think that's why people end up with a lot of wire hangers. They never transfer them when they get home. And leaving the plastic on is like a really bad thing to do. Plastic gives off gases. If left long term, it will, damage your clothing. So
Didn't know
you're
that.
better to get like a cotton cover, a dust
Okay.
cover, or even a cotton piva clothes cover, because that way you're protecting the clothing. It's a breathable cover, but you can also see what's in there. So I particularly like the ones that are like a natural cotton on the back and piva on the front, because I mean, in my own closet, which is a walk-in closet, I have all my special clothes in cotton piva covers because a walk-in closet can be dusty, if those are items you're not wearing frequently.
Got it.
So,
All right. Well, thank you so much for
yeah.
being here. To sum up today, how can we reach out to you? Would you mind sharing?
Via my website, which is asharpspace.com, ASHARPSPACE.com, or by phone 617-939-4641.
Perfect. And also, do you offer like an initial discovery call if someone's interested in your work? How do they?
Yes, on my website, I think on the bottom of every page, you can click on an option to schedule a discovery call. I've sort of set aside certain times in the week when I know I'm more often like in the office and available. But if none of those work for you, my phone number's there on my email address, and just, leave me a message, send me an email, and we'll find a time that works for you. But
Perfect. Thank
yes,
you
it's,
so much.
typically 15 to 30 minutes, depending on the nature of the job. It'll be a phone call.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you again. And
You're
Sharp,
welcome.
Sharp Space. Thank you so much. Have a great day, sweetheart. Enjoy your Halloween.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.